Towns is in the mix for the #1 pick in the draft. He is a dominant big man who can contribute on both ends of the floor. He's 6'11", 250 pounds with a crazy 7'4" wingspan and a 9'5" standing reach. Teams love him because on the offensive end, he's super skilled. He can score both inside and outside. He has great size and length for his position. He has a soft touch around the basket and can score with either hand. He has a nice little hook shot in the paint where he drives his shoulder into his defender, creates a little space, and then rises up above him. He has a soft touch around the basket, but also has a great shooting touch away from the basket. He's an excellent shooter with mid to three-point range on a shot. He's a good passer. He recognizes the double team and is excellent passing out of those double teams. Overall, Anthony Towns shows up with a very high basketball IQ for a big man. On the defensive end, though, things are even more exciting for teams who see him as an elite rim protector and shot blocker who can defend just about any big man, whether they're athletic or physical. He's a very good rebounder, both on the offensive and defensive boards. Another plus for Towns, a guy that can get it done two ways. On the downside, there are some concerns about Karl-Anthony Towns, though generally they are pretty small. The biggest concern that we hear from scouts is that he sometimes lacks the toughness that you'd like out of a big man when he's faced with particularly physical defenders. He has a nasty habit of fading away on his shots in the paint too often. But overall, that while still not 100% polished, projects to have a very, very high ceiling in the NBA. Some people think a bigger, taller Al Horford, that should get him picked either 1 or 2 in the 2015 NBA draft. Has been at the top of our big board for the entire year. He is a true big man with elite size, length, and strength for his position. He has a crazy 7'5" wingspan with a 9'3" reach. Stands at 6'11", 275 pounds. He's a guy that's going to be able to physically come in and play right away. He also has an incredible basketball IQ and is one of the most polished offensive big men that we've ever seen as a freshman. He has incredible footwork, soft hands, and an array of low-post big man moves that would make many veterans in the NBA jealous. He has a high basketball IQ and a nice mid-range game out to 14 feet, and he is an excellent passer out of the low post. That is the good side of Jahlil Okafor, and it's very, very good. But there's a downside too. He lacks elite lateral quickness or explosiveness as an athlete. He's not an elite rebounder. He's a good one, but not an elite one. And he can get lazy on the defensive end. Sometimes his lack of quick foot speed and what have you means that he's going to get beat by quicker, more athletic offensive players. And that's the real reason that he may not be the #1 pick in the draft, as some teams are concerned that perhaps Okafor just won't be able to get it done defensively in the NBA. But as far as offensively goes, he is one of the most elite prospects that we've seen in the last decade, and he should be the #1 or #2 pick in the draft on draft night. Russell is one of the most dominant combo guards in college basketball right now. He is an incredible scorer. He's smooth. He can shoot the basketball from deep. He is an excellent ball handler who can get just about anywhere he wants on the floor. He's also an excellent passer, one of the most creative passers in college basketball this year, which has raised the question, is he a point guard at the next level? There's a number of NBA scouts that say he sees the floor so well and is so creative in his ability to find his teammates that he can make that transition to the next level. If he does, he has incredible size at 6'4" with a 6'9" wingspan. Great size for an NBA point guard. Where he needs to add is strength. He still doesn't have the strength of an NBA point guard yet, and he also needs to improve on his athleticism. While he's not a bad athlete, he doesn't quite have the same level of explosiveness or quickness that many of the elite point guards have. And sometimes when faced with athletic, physical defenders, they can take Russell out of his game. Still, when you're talking about a 6'5" guard who can really stroke the basketball and who can pass it, those players don't come along very often, and many people think that Russell reminds them of a young James Harden. That should be enough to get him drafted in the top 4 in the 2015 NBA draft. Mudiay spent his first season not in college at SMU, but in China, where he played 13 games and actually performed quite well in China. He's a big point guard, 6'5", 200 pounds, has a 6'9" wingspan, and he's a power guard. He has excellent size for his position. He's a great athlete with both speed and explosive leaping ability. When he attacks the basket, he's a powerful finisher around the basket, and that's one of his greatest strengths so far. He's an excellent player in the open court. He sees the floor well and always plays in attack mode. He's also a terrific rebounder for a guard. He's not afraid to get in the paint and mix it up with bigger defenders. The concerns about Mudiay are a few. One is that some teams aren't sure that he is a pure point guard yet. While he sees the floor well, he can be turnover prone, and sometimes he has questionable decision-making skills on the offensive end. He also needs to improve his perimeter shooting. While he shot okay from China, teams would like to see him improve both in his mid-range game and his three-point shooting. And his motor can run a little hot and cold. Sometimes he's very, very engaged as an offensive and defensive player, and sometimes he can take plays off and teams want to see a more consistent performance. But after averaging 18 points per game in China, and after being able to come in and show that he can play against other professionals, he right now stands as our #1 point guard prospect. He should be a top 4 pick in the 2015 NBA draft. Willie Cauley-Stein is one of the most unique players that I have ever scouted. He is a freak athletically. He stands at 7 foot, 240 pounds with a 7'2" wingspan and a 9'2" reach. And he is an incredible athlete, particularly agile and explosive for a player his size. And that means that when he's out running the floor, he runs like a guard. He finishes well above the rim, loves to get the alley-oop from the Harrison twins and finish above the basket. And he is an elite defender, a defender that can actually guard every position on the floor from center to point guard. His quickness, his length, his ability to recover allows him to really defend just about anybody that's out there. He is an excellent shot blocker and a pretty good rebounder, though he is often playing out of position to be able to grab great rebounds. The problem comes on the offensive end. If he's dunking the basketball, he's great. Just about everything else is still a work in progress. Willie Cauley-Stein still lacks basic low post moves for a big man. He struggles to finish around the rim when defended well. And he still needs to improve his jump shot. He's shown somewhat of a nice mid-range game that started to come out, but he still lacks confidence in it, and it's not a huge part of his offensive repertoire. Teams aren't drafting Willie Cauley-Stein, though, to average 15 or 20 points a game. He may not average 10 points a game in the NBA. They're drafting him as an elite rim protector and the sort of guy that can go out and just absolutely shut down the best player on the opposing team. That's why NBA coaches are going to love him, and that's why scouts predict that he should be drafted somewhere in the 7 to 14 range in the 2015 NBA draft. Trey Lyles is a skilled, big, inside-out man. He stands at 6'10" with a 7-foot wingspan and can play both the 3 and the 4 at the NBA level. He has great footwork and a soft touch around the basket, shows a nice little turnaround jumper, can put the ball on the floor and get past his defender, is a very solid shooter, especially in the mid-range game where he can be money from 15 to 20 feet in. A solid ball handler for his size, He is a good passer with a high basketball IQ, in fact, one of the highest of anybody on this Kentucky roster. The challenges for Lyles stand in his lack of elite quickness or explosive leaping ability for a player his size. He can struggle defensively with players that have elite quickness or athleticism. He needs to continue to add strength if he is going to play in the post. And there are going to continue to be questions about whether Lyles is a bit of an NBA tweener, a talented player that lacks a true NBA position. Because of that, Lyles projects as a player that should be drafted somewhere between 13 and 22 in the 2015 NBA draft. Stanley Johnson is a man amongst boys. He stands at 6'7", 240 pounds with a 6'11" wingspan, but he's a wing, folks, and he is a physical one. He has a great NBA body and strength, always playing in attack mode, uses that strength and that physicality to his advantage on both ends of the floor. He plays with a great motor and very high competitiveness. He's constantly both attacking the rim, and he's shown to be a very good shooter, including from three-point range, especially when he gets his feet set this year. He's an elite physical defender when he wants to be, who can shut down both twos, threes, and fours. And he's proven to be a very good rebounder for his size. On the downside, Johnson's skills haven't totally caught up to his physical abilities yet. He's not a particularly explosive athlete. He can play out of control at times, leading to turnovers and poor shot selection. And while he's an improved shooter, he still goes through major slumps, sometimes scoring the basketball. He needs to improve both his ball handling and sometimes his recognition. And he was surprisingly a poor finisher at the rim this year. For a player that strong and that physical, there are going to be question marks about why he could not always dominate when he made it to the rim. And I think it has to do with deceiving lack of elite athleticism. Still, Johnson is considered one of those guys that's just a winner, a guy that's out there hustling and will do anything it takes to win a basketball game. That should get him picked somewhere in the 6 to 13 range in the 2015 NBA draft. Is an elite shooter, perhaps the best shooter in the 2015 NBA draft. He stands at 6'6", 195 pounds with a 6'8" wingspan. Teams don't care much about that. What they care about is that he can stroke the basketball. He has a fluid stroke. He has a quick release. He can score from just about anywhere on the floor. He's also a bit of a heady wing. He's got elite basketball IQ. He's very efficient. He rarely takes bad shots. And he's a solid defender on the defensive end. While he doesn't possess elite quickness or athleticism and doesn't necessarily dominate in any other area offensively, with the success of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, the Splash Brothers, more and more NBA teams are looking for players that can just let it fly, and Booker's the best get you're going to get in this draft. It should get him drafted somewhere in the 13 to 20 range in the 2015 NBA draft. Is a rangy, athletic wing. He's a good shooter, albeit with somewhat of an unorthodox shot. He's a lefty who can really stroke the basketball and has NBA three-point range. He's an explosive athlete when he gets up ahead of steam and can finish above the rim. He's a good penetrator and has the ability to stop on a dime and pull up and hit the mid-range J. Very good lateral quickness as well for Oubre, and he's become a very committed defender under Bill Self at KU this year and was one of their lockdown guys on the perimeter all season. Oubre could continue to improve his handle. He still at times settles for bad outside shots, and sometimes his lack of basketball IQ shows on the defensive end. He's a bit rawer than the other wing prospects in this draft. But overall, Oubre may have a ceiling that's higher than all of them because of his size, because of a freaky 7'2" wingspan, and that athleticism. He could end up being the best wing in the draft, but he's going to take a little bit more time to develop than a Stanley Johnson or a Justice Winslow. He too is in that 6 to 13 range in the 2015 NBA draft. Turner was the number 2 ranked high school prospect in the class of 2014 and was projected as a top 5 pick coming into the draft. And on talent, he absolutely deserves that ranking. The question is whether he'll ever reach that lofty ceiling. The good news is that Turner has NBA size and length for his position. While not an explosive athlete, he's very mobile, can run the floor, and can guard both in the paint and on the perimeter. His jump shot is advanced for a 7-footer, and he shows NBA three-point range from there. He also projects as a very good defender. He was an excellent rim protector for Texas this year and a very good rebounder as well. The bad news about Turner was that he was wildly inconsistent as a freshman. He dominated lesser competition but often disappeared against elite teams. He lacks great strength and has a very unusual gait that has scouts worried that there might be some knee issues out there for Turner, and they wonder whether down the road this could be an injury problem for him. He's a tough player to project because on potential, he's the top 5 pick in this draft, but on immediate impact, he's more of a late lottery or early first rounder. I think NBA teams at the end of the day will split the difference, and he should go somewhere in the 7 to 14 range on draft night. Kaminsky is one of the elite college basketball players in the country, if not the best college basketball player in the country. He has great size at 7 feet tall, but uniquely is well known for being able to stretch the floor as an excellent shooter with deep three-point range on his jump shot. He's a unique offensive player as well. When he's not shooting threes, he likes to pump fake from the perimeter, put the ball on the floor, and attack the basket that way. That's where he's most comfortable, and he's very agile for a player his size. He's a good ball handler who has a soft touch around the basket. As a low post player, he lacks elite strength, but he does have good footwork and is a solid finisher around the rim, though he's going to need to add strength on both the offensive and defensive end to mix it up with NBA centers. He's not a great rebounder, a good one, not a great shot blocker, a solid one, and not an elite athlete when it comes to explosiveness or playing above the rim. But his agility, his versatility, and his high basketball IQ make him a very intriguing pick. Look for Kaminsky to go somewhere in the 10 to 20 range in the 2015 NBA draft. Looney is a versatile big man who can play both inside and out. He's 6'10", 210 pounds with a whopping pterodactyl-like 7'3" wingspan and a 9'2" standing reach. He has those Mr. Gadget arms, which allows him to be an excellent rebounder on the defensive end and especially on the offensive end, where he was a terror as a freshman. He's a good mobile athlete. While he's not particularly fast or explosive, he moves very well. His versatility allows him to play both the 3 and the 4. He's an improving shooter, especially from three-point range. He can rise up and hit three-point shots with regularity. He's an above-average ball handler for a player his size. He sees the floor very well and actually played point guard for his team as a senior. He's played power forward at UCLA, and so we haven't seen that full package from Looney at times, but scouts that have scouted him in practice say he has it. And while he's thin and needs to add strength, he's quite tough for a player and very physical when he needs to be. He needs to continue to add polish to his offensive game. He needs to continue to improve his mid-range jumper, and he does need to add strength to be able to battle the more physical defenders that are going to be in the paint at the NBA. Looney's an upside guy, and while he may not be able to come in and contribute right away to the NBA, he still projects as a player that should land somewhere in the 7 to 14 range in the 2015 NBA draft. Portis stands at 6'11", 230 pounds with a 7'2" wingspan. He has ideal size for an NBA power forward. He's a versatile forward. He can score both inside and out. He's aggressive posting up and finishing in the paint. He has both a mid-range game and a three-pointer in his arsenal and a very good basketball IQ. He sees the floor well and is an excellent passer. The problem with Portis is that he can at times fall in love with that perimeter game. He's an average athlete, not an elite one, but that's what they say about just about everything with Portis. While he has many skills and is very versatile, he's good, but not great at anything. He doesn't have that one NBA skill that stands out at an elite level. And because of that, his draft prospects are just a little bit lower than the other elite prospects in our lottery. Look for Portis to go somewhere in the 13 to 20 range in the 2015 NBA draft. Athletic, small forward who can score the basketball in multiple ways. He has been a favorite of the analytics crowd because of his ability to do so much on the basketball floor, sometimes things that don't always show up in the box score. He's a solid shooter with deep range on his jumper. He's an above average athlete who can explode above the rim. He's a solid ball handler who can finish with either hand around the basket. He's got excellent toughness. He is a strong, physical player who can be fearless on both ends of the floor and is very effective creating off the bounce. The biggest knocks on Dekker is his inconsistency. At times when he's dialed in, he plays with swagger and toughness, and there's other times that he just disappears on the court. He's also a bit of a tweener. He stands at 6'9", 230 pounds, and the question is he a 4? Is he a 3? Is he a 2? The way he played in Wisconsin's system, he looked like all of those things at once. So either he's very versatile or he doesn't have a position at the NBA level. Teams are still trying to figure that out. After a great NCAA tournament, Dekker is now projected to go somewhere in the 13 to 22 range in the 2015 NBA draft. Payne is a mid-major sleeper who has slowly risen up the big board and now is considered a potential first-round pick in the 2015 NBA draft. He's an intelligent point guard, crafty, sees the floor well, plays the position the traditional way with great court vision, excellent ball handling skills, and a great feel for the game. He is the type of player that gets everyone involved on the court and makes everyone just a little bit better. He is an improving shooter who can score both from three-point range and in the mid-range game, and he's very quick on both ends of the floor. Payne needs to continue to add strength. He has a small frame and he is slight, and he is going to get pushed around at the next level until he gets stronger. And while he's a quick athlete, he's not a particularly explosive one. He doesn't explode off the floor, and that can affect at times his ability to finish at the basket. There's some scouts that believe that Payne is actually the third best point guard prospect in this draft, and his range is from 14 to 25 in the 2015 NBA draft. Long, athletic guard with great size for his position. He can play both the 1 and the 2, but really has excelled playing point guard this year at Notre Dame. He stands at 6'5", so he has great size at the point guard position. He excels at slashing to the basket and doing a bunch of mid-range shots and step backs. He gets to the free throw line and he can shoot the 3. Grant is a good defender with excellent lateral quickness. He can defend multiple positions on the floor, but I think the thing that NBA scouts love the most about Grant is his excellent leadership qualities. He takes his team and wills them to victory on any given night. He needs to continue to improve his jump shot. While he does have three-point range, he's been an inconsistent shooter, especially this season, and at times he can be too unselfish. As a leader, sometimes he needs to assert himself more. When he does so, he can be unstoppable. But sometimes the best defender on Jerian Grant is himself. He projects somewhere in the 14 to 22 range in the 2015 NBA draft. Consistent when it comes to his draft stock. He's been ranked in the late lottery to mid-first round since his freshman year. He continues to show solid improvements, but what scouts like about him has never really changed. While he lacks elite size for his position, he's shown major improvements offensively, and while he's not particularly a polished offensive player, he has shown his ability to step out now and hit the mid-range jumper. But it's his strengths, his elite athleticism, his length, an NBA body, and a terrific motor that have kept him strongly in the mix for a first-round selection, despite the fact that he only stands at 6'6", 6'7". While most scouts don't project him as an all-star type of player, many believe he could be a terrific rotation player on a good team, the sort of player who contributes with hustle and toughness on both ends of the floor. Look for Harrell to go somewhere in the 18 to 25 range in the 2015 NBA Draft. Hunter an elite shooter or just a high-volume shooter? That's the question every GM and scout that I've spoken to is asking. For 2 seasons, Hunter drew interest from NBA teams as a Klay Thompson-like shooting guard who can handle the ball, play the passing lanes, and shoot with unlimited range. He exhibits a very high basketball IQ and is a leader on the floor. The problem for Hunter is that he had a horrible three-point shooting slump as a junior. He took a whopping 262 threes this season and made it just 80 of them, a 31% clip. That's not the mark of the next Klay Thompson. The question is, did Hunter just turn into a poor three-point shooter, or did it have something to do with the way defenses were playing him at Georgia State? The scouts that love him think that once he gets to the NBA, he'll be freed up. He won't be the focus of NBA defenses any longer, and he could be an elite scorer at the next level. The teams that are afraid wonder, if you can't break down defenses in the Sun Belt League, how are you going to break down defenses at the NBA level? Because of that, he has a pretty wide draft range. I think he can go as high as 13, but he could also fall as far as number 25 in the 2015 NBA Draft. Hollis-Jefferson is an elite defender, perhaps the best wing defender in the country. He can shut down ones, twos, threes, and even give fours a hard time with his elite length. He has a 7'1" wingspan and his elite athleticism and quickness. He's long and strong, and when he attacks the basket, he is a very good finisher above the rim. He's great in the open floor and excellent when he uses his quickness to cut and get to the basket. The problem for Rondae Hollis-Jefferson lies in his lack of not only a three-point jump shot, but a great mid-range game as well. He just struggles as a shooter, and defenses collapse on him and force him to take that jump shot, and that's going to be his biggest problem as he gets to the next level. But Hollis-Jefferson is so great defensively and such a great athlete and does all the little things to help a team win that he still should get drafted somewhere in the 8 to 25 range in the 2015 NBA Draft. Had a much bigger role in the Louisville offense as a sophomore and put up terrific scoring numbers this season. He's a strong, athletic guard who plays with great intensity on both ends of the floor. When he's good, he looks the part of a lottery pick, a sort of Kyle Lowry top player. However, his weaknesses can be exposed, and they are significant. He's prone to poor shot selection, has been an inconsistent three-point shooter this season, and while he can pass the ball, he's struggled at times to get Louisville's offense flowing. His natural instinct is to score, and he often did that at the expense of his teammates. Still, players with his toughness, his athleticism, speed, and drive don't come along every day. If he improves his decision-making and keeps working on his jump shot, he could be a very good pro. He has all the physical tools. Look for him to go in the 20 to 35 range in the 2015 NBA Draft.